First tonight, we paid tribute to the pioneering heart transplant surgeon Sir Terence English, who's died at the age of 93. He carried out the UK's first successful heart transplant at the Royal Papworth in 1979. In the process, he helped the hospital in Cambridgeshire develop an international reputation, and he went on to influence healthcare around the world. In a moment, we'll hear from a man who took part in that very first transplant with him. First, our health correspondent Nikki Fox has been looking back at his remarkable career.
The year was 1979. Britain had just elected its first female Prime Minister, but in Cambridgeshire, Sir Terence English was making history of a different kind.
It's hard to overstate how difficult it was to start a heart transplant programme in the 1970s, when it was being opposed by people within the hospital and by the NHS as a whole. So Sir Terence really had to work and convince people that this was a viable program. And I think without him, it would not have happened.
News of the offer of a donor heart comes first to the surgical unit at Papworth.
Sir Terence carried the first donor hearts in an ordinary freezer box in the back of his Austin Maxi, defying the medical authorities and a lack of funding to break new ground.
We soon went ahead in January '79 and the first case failed, which was a terrible, terrible disappointment and which brought the roof down on my head, not least from the transplant advisory panel for going against their wishes, but also the public and the medical profession.
Keith Castle looks remarkably healthy and cheerful for any 52-year-old. So how does he feel?
I feel 20 years younger.
And that's because Keith had just been operated on by Sir Terence in Britain's first successful heart transplant.
His way of dealing with patients meant that they were willing to take that chance, because after all, they were, leaping into the unknown as well.
26 years later, Will English, Sir Terence's son, has become a doctor himself. His father's former patients leaving tributes. They speak of being forever thankful.
I've seen firsthand, both the amazing gift that people make, putting forward loved ones to be donors, but also just that incredible ripple effect that it can have, not just revolutionising one person's life, but the lives of their friends and family and those that are close to them.
In later life, Sir Terence performed humanitarian work abroad, but his legacy here, more than 3,000 transplants carried out at Royal Papworth since.
I think he's had amazing life, and he is certainly someone who's kind of maximised everything that's available to him.
A man who never really retired, always pushing boundaries to save lives. Nikki Fox, BBC Look East.
Well, Frank Wells has been a surgeon at Papworth for 40 years. Back in 1979, he was just starting out on his career when he took part in that first transplant with Sir Terence English. He told me how he heard they were about to make medical history.
Well, it was extraordinary. It was literally my second weekend on call, and about 10 o'clock at night the phone rang, and the switchboard operator said, Frank, we've got Mr. English on the phone for you. So standing to attention, I said, yes sir, how can I help you? And he said, well, we're doing a transplant. I said, oh, what, liver, kidney, because that's really all that was being done then. He said, no, heart. He said, go to my office, my desk, top right-hand drawer, there's a protocol, take it out and read it.
And was he the kind of person that you just had ultimate faith in at that time, or did you realise quite how risky this whole thing was?
Yes and yes. I mean, first of all, he was a very disciplined man in everything he did, and very quickly one came to know that he thought through everything very, very carefully. But I have to say, when I received the first phone call, it was very much an act of faith. Do as I was told and get on with it.
And the word that's often used about Sir Terence is tenacity. He had to fight for the chance to do this.
Oh, he did.
Was that just in him as a person?
Oh, I think it was. You go right back, coming from South Africa, working in the mines, where he won a competition aged 17 for making a drill work better than any of the hardened miners there. It goes right throughout his personality. Absolutely determined, but on the back of very careful thought, very detailed thought.
Now, you went on to be very pioneering in the field as well. Is that the nature of this kind of work, that you have to be bold, you have to be prepared to fail and take really big risks?
Yes, but it was a very different world then, you see. Ethics committees were only just around the corner, and provided you did things for the right reason, with the right background of knowledge, and you prepared properly for it, it felt more like a natural progression. I think perhaps after we'd done these operations, you sort of had a bit more of those feelings. I remember we did the first artificial heart when I got back home at midnight that night, and I was sitting in the garage getting out of the car and the BBC News was announcing it. There was a bit of feeling, you know, gosh, do we really do that?
Are you thinking that something so pioneering as that would be harder to do now?
I think it would be almost impossible. Of course, you know, probably ways will be found around it, but now, from the inception of an idea through the development of a research program, getting all the funding through the Ethics Committee, management control and so forth, these things can take years, and it would have been at the very least very much more difficult.
And as far as the impact that Sir Terence had on you and your career and the legacy he's left for Papworth, what would you say about that?
He will always live in the front of my mind. He mentored me through my training days, but in Papworth too, he was very much the driving force. A great man, great disciplinarian, a word you don't use these days, but someone you couldn't help but respect and want to follow and want to, you know, strive to try and achieve something what he'd done.
Frank Wells, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.